In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create simple 3D text in Photoshop like you see in front of you right now. Right now I'm in Photoshop CS4, and the first thing I'm going to do is go up to File here and create a new document. And I'm going to title this document 3D text, a width of 700, height of 400 in pixels, resolution of 300, and background is white. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it's going to bring up my new document here. The first thing I want to do is change the background color to a darker gray. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a darker gray by going down to my foreground color here, changing it to a darker gray, something like that. Clicking OK, grabbing my paint bucket tool on the left hand side in the toolbar, and just clicking on my artboard here to have a gray background. Next thing I want to do is grab my text tool, and I am using Gabo Drive with a 36-point font, and I'm going to use white as my font color, but it really doesn't matter right now because I'm going to be using some sort of effects later on, and it'll cover up this color anyways. So once I click on my artboard here to start my text, as you can see on the right hand side in the layers panel, it creates a brand new layer. I'm going to go ahead and type in the word 3D, let me capitalize this, 3D text. I'm going to commit to that by clicking the checkbox, grab my move tool, and kind of center this text up a little bit. Now, in order to get the perspective that we see in the original here as it's laying down on some sort of a flat surface almost, we need to change the perspective of this text, and to do so I need to change it to a rasterized image, and once I do that it will no longer be editable. I'm going to right click on this layer in the right hand side, go down to rasterize type, click that, and now I can no longer edit this using the text tool, but what I can do is click Control T, and which will give me the bounding boxes around this text tool. Right click inside the text and go down to perspective, and then I'm going to grab the lower right hand box on the bounding box and just click, hold, and drag to the right, which will then change the perspective look of this text. And that looks just about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click the checkbox, and now I've got a different perspective on this text right here. The next thing I want to do is create a style on top of this text by double clicking on my layer, and that'll bring up my layer style dialog box. I want to put a pattern overlay first, and I am going to use just a marble or granite looking pattern right here that I have, and I'm going to then click gradient overlay, and I'm going to lower the opacity all the way down to probably about 20%, and I'm going to give it, actually that looks just right. I'm going to click OK, and the next thing I want to do is make a copy, a duplicate of this layer by right clicking on it, going to duplicate layer, and I can leave this name the same here, it doesn't really matter. Click OK, drag that layer underneath my original layer, and in order to create the 3D effect I'm going to hold the Control Alt, and then I'm going to press the down arrow, and as I press the down arrow it's going to create a new layer on top of my first layer, my first copy layer, and it's going to push it down 1 pixel each time I do this. So I'm going to press down again, and I'm just going to keep pushing down while I'm holding Control and Alt, and it creates new layers, and it's pushing them all down, as you can see. I'm going to create up to about 20 layers here, and once I get to my 20th layer I will then click on my 20th layer, make sure I'm not clicking on my original 3D text layer, hold the shift key, go down to my original copy layer and click on that, which will then copy everything in between. I'm going to right click on these and go to merge layers. Now that I've merged all these layers here, I'm going to double click on them to get my layer style dialog box, and then I'm going to do a color overlay of black, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK again, and now I've got a 3D effect here, but I do want to add one more little thing in there, and to do that I'm going to add a new layer next to the trash can in the layers dialog box. There's a little square with a tab bent up, that's to create a new layer. Click on that, drag that layer underneath, go over to the left hand side to my tools bar, grab the ellipse tool, make sure I've got a white color, click OK, and I'm going to drag this ellipse over top of my text like so. Then I'm going to let go and it's going to show the white underneath. I'm going to go to my filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and it's going to ask me if I want to rasterize this image, and in order to get the effect I want, I'm required to rasterize the image, so I'm going to click OK. And I've got it set to 25 pixel radius. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on that. I'm going to grab my move tool here and move this down just a tad like so. Then I'm going to click Control T, grab my dialog box and just put it to the ends so they are flush with the artboard. I'm going to commit to that. I'm going to lower my opacity down to about, let's go with 35, and that makes it look like we're on a little bit of a surface here. I'm going to hit my down arrow to move this white underneath the text just a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to grab Control T and I'm going to lift this up slightly to make it a little larger. Commit to that. Then I'm going to go to my copy of my 3D text layer, double click on that, and I'm going to add one more effect here, which is a drop shadow. And we're going to lower the opacity of this drop shadow down to about 40. And I'm going to keep everything else the same. I'm going to click outside my dialog box and onto my artboard here, and as you can see, as I click and hold, I can move this shadow around anywhere I want it. I'm going to use the T as a reference, and I'm going to move this shadow just parallel in front of the T here, like so, which will then make it look like the light is coming from the back and putting a shadow in front of it. I'm going to click OK, and we have just completed our 3D text. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go to webnewbie.com, and we'll see you next time.